Find a Way by Patrick G. McLean. Part 3. This story from the 1980s continues in Chapter 12, with Paul in the headmaster's office. The headmaster asks about his sudden decline in grades and lack of enthusiasm, given that he is the school's top athlete. Things concerning Paul will worsen, prompting his schoolmates, Bobby and Kenny, to launch an investigation out of concern, hoping Paul is still alive. Part 3 of 4. Chapter 12b. Mr. Morrison continues, "Paul, there must be a reason you're acting out of character, and looking at you, I can tell you're under stress. Once you allow stress to control you, it will destabilize your emotions and jeopardize your health. Bottling problems inside can also lead to repressed emotions that result in impulsive decisions. Paul, the best way to manage supercharged emotions is to confront the issue, even if only by talking about it. Now, is there anything you'd like to share with me?" "No, sir," he replies weakly. "Would you rather talk with the guidance counselor?" "No, sir." "Have you seen your family doctor?" "No, sir." Since his responses are negative and seemingly evasive, Mr. Morrison concludes, "Young man, I'm going to recommend your parents take you to a doctor or a psychiatrist." The headmaster puts on his glasses and writes his verdict on a clean sheet of paper. "I'm drafting a letter to your parents. I'm convinced you need professional help." Paul's distant expression indicates that he is indifferent and not fully absorbing what the headmaster is saying. His mental state and body language reveal that he is a troubled boy. The headmaster finishes by saying, "Please wait in the reception area until the secretary types out this letter." Paul returns to the reception area and plops down beside a coffee table. His briefcase rests on the table next to some old, dog-eared magazines and the daily newspaper. After a while, he becomes more edgy from the constant tap-tap-tapping sound of the typewriter keys striking sheets of paper against the feed roller. He picks up the newspaper to browse, hoping to distract himself from the annoying clatter and the letter he would be mortified to show his parents. Without unfolding the newspaper, he casually glances at two pictures on the upper half of the front page. A headline that says, "Cocaine pusher nabbed by CID" grabs his attention. While scanning through the article, he appears increasingly bothered. Creases form on his forehead, and one side of his mouth quivers. He lays the newspaper back on the table, leaning forward for a few seconds as he stares impassively at the floor. Then he stands up, glances at the secretary, who is now typing the letter for his parents, and approaches her desk. Excuse me, ma'am," he interrupts her. I must go to the restroom quickly." "Okay," she replies. "By the time you're back, the letter will be signed and ready." "Yes, ma'am." He trudges away, shoulders hunched and both hands clutching his briefcase tightly against his chest, like someone trying to stay warm in a freezing climate without a winter coat. In the blink of an eye, the ornate office assistant, who seems overly busy, pauses and gives him a curious glance. She intones, then continues typing, chomping her gum and chatting on the phone. Chapter 13. Usually, on Mondays after school, Kenny tries to stick to a workout routine in his backyard. He has just finished the last of 6 basic exercises. 36, 37, 38, he gasps through clenched teeth, with neck and facial muscles tight from the effort to reach 40 push-ups. Breathing heavily to catch his breath after finishing the full count, he drops his body onto a flat board, a makeshift seat across the bulging roots of a June plum tree. Nearby, the fox terrier and her 3 fluffy puppies rest in a hole she dug in the dirt. The pups are curled up against their mother's nipples. On one side of the house, Cindy, Kenny's little sister, plays a jump rope game with a girl who lives next door. Cindy skips while her friend spins the rope tied to a wire mesh fence. 1, 2, 3, Auntie Lulu, they chant repeatedly. They often switch places when the jumper gets out for not being able to skip 3 times while chanting 1, 2, 3, or for ducking low enough to dodge the rope spinning overhead while chanting Auntie Lulu. The two girls enjoy themselves, despite not having another playmate to spin the other end of the rope. Cooling down in the gentle breeze, Kenny listens to a pocket-sized transistor radio propped against the tree root. The high-pitched radio is at maximum volume and tuned to his favorite hip-talking disc jockey, Stan McCook, who calls himself the Cool Mac Coo. The Cool One has been playing a mix of reggae, soca, rhythm and blues, and light pop music. After 30 groovy, entertaining minutes, he begins reading the 4:30 p.m. news. The mutilated body of an unidentified teenage boy was found on the beach at Port Morgan, he announces. According to the coroner, the boy was attacked by a shark. Kenny sighs. Poor guy, he murmurs. The disturbing lead story ruins his peaceful break as he can't help but think about the tragic fate of the victim, probably his age. To avoid more upsetting news, he turns off the radio. Then he walks over to a faucet attached to a concrete cistern near the wide-open kitchen door and drinks tap water from his cupped hand. Cindy. Kenny. Dinner is on the table, their mother shouts from the kitchen. He turns off the faucet, relaying Cindy, did you hear? Mama says dinner is ready. Yes, soon come, she answers, sounding like yeeth soon come, due to her pronounced lisp. She sounds displeased about having to stop frolicking with her friend. Come and wash your hands now, he commands firmly. Drinking utensils, china plates, and silver cutlery are neatly arranged on colorful plastic mats on each side of the dining table. In the center of the table, a Pyrex dish holds roast beef, an elliptical china dish contains white rice, a plastic bowl features diced cucumber, tomato, and lettuce, and a bottle of salad dressing is nearby. The pleasant aroma of the roast beef titillates Kenny's nostrils as he enters the dining room. His father and Cindy are already seated at the table. Just as he pulls up a chair to face his father, he is distracted by the sound of the telephone ringing. Being closer to the wall unit, he picks up the receiver. If it's for me, take a message, his mother shouts from the kitchen. Yes, Mama, he replies. Hello, yes, oh hi Len. What's up? I was told you have a high-quality camera. Do you? Len says. Yeah, man, and it also has a telephoto lens. Why? The cadet unit at school is having its annual inspection tomorrow, and we will need pictures of the event for the yearbook. No problem, Len. I'll gladly support the magazine committee in any way I can. Thanks, Kenny. His mother comes out of the kitchen, holding a jug of ice-cold guava juice. Kenny, the food's getting cold, she says as she walks past him. Yeah, Mama, he responds with a nod while still talking on the phone. Len asks him, would you mind being the photographer? Not at all, that's cool with me. I'll be available, he says, showing his willingness and enthusiasm to help. All right, take care. He is about to remove the receiver from his ear when Len discreetly squeezes in a question. By the way, did you leave a get-well-soon card at Winsome's house on behalf of the magazine committee? The question totally catches him off guard. Yeah. How did you? Oh no. Len chuckles. I heard a tall and thin boy deliver it. You're the only skinny guy on the committee. She appreciates the card. It lifted her spirits. Kenny's eyes light up with joy. It did? Great. In a low, taut voice that doesn't carry to his family's hearing, he asks, how's she doing? She was cheerful when I talked to her on the phone yesterday. She'll return to school next Monday. That's good news. Okay, Len. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. When he hangs up the phone, his mother, who is now sitting at the table, asks, what's the good news? His eyes still twinkle with delight when he flashes a broad smile, replying, it's just the vibes, Mama. His vague response leaves her both guessing and amused. Sounds like an adolescent byplay to me. Huh, is his innocent reaction. Never mind. Come and have your dinner. Mama, do you mind if I eat mine later? I'm not feeling hungry. I understand, she replies with a knowing smile. Chapter 14. The national flag flies high on a 50-foot pole at the center of the lawn in front of Crawford High School's auditorium. Rippling proudly in the light breeze, it represents the island's ideals with its black, green, and gold colors. As their annual inspection begins, 46 cadets stand regimentally on the pavement between the lawn and the auditorium. The sergeant major, wearing a leather wristband with a shiny silver crown, stands rigidly in front of the two platoons and the band. He firmly holds one end of a swagger stick set horizontally, with the other tucked under his armpit. The drum major, the band leader, also appears sharp with 4 large, inverted, V-shaped stripes on his uniform sleeve. He holds a mace upright. All the cadets wear blue berets, khaki uniforms with blue stripes down the sides of their pants, and shiny black leather boots. The cadets in the band wear green webbed gaiters over their lower pant legs and boot shafts, except for the tenor drummers who sport white gaiters and long white gloves. The groups of cadets are prepared to march to the playing field, 80 yards away, where they will be on parade for inspection by the Commandant and senior officers of the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, JCF. Students line the pathway leading to the playing field and its edges. Kenny stands with Len near the field, ready to take pictures, and points his camera up the path. The sergeant major shouts as loudly and sharply as possible, "Parade! Parade! Attention! By the right! Quick march!" commanding the corps to move forward. All at once, the band's low, mid, and high notes fill the air with energy. The booming bass drum, rattling side drums, and crashing cymbals keep rhythm with the bright, blaring notes of shiny copper bugles. As marchers swing their arms while walking down the pathway, their thick-soled leather boots slap against the asphalt to the tempo of Bugle Boy. Prefects keep excited onlookers from getting in the way of the formation. Kenny begins snapping pictures of the lead cadets as they approach him. The drum major, bringing the mace to the trail in a sequence of motions, swings the mace to his right and left. He captivates spectators by spinning the mace, tossing it into the air and skillfully catching it as it falls, demonstrating perfect coordination between his hands and the mace. Meanwhile, the tenor drummers exhibit intricate wrist movements, gracefully twirling white felt-tipped drumsticks around their upper bodies as they play. Bobby makes his way through the crowd from behind, trying to reach Kenny and Len. He shouts to get Kenny's attention, but Kenny can't hear him over the thunderous sound of the band passing by. He continues pushing through the crowd and gets close enough to tap him on the shoulder. "Kenny! Kenny!" he shouts again. "Hey, what's up, Bobby?" Kenny shouts back. Still aiming his camera at the cadets, he instinctively rotates his head a quarter turn to look, but Bobby is in his blind spot. Bobby moves closer to his line of sight. "Can we talk?" "Sure." Kenny, busy shooting, expects a quick chat. "Not here, away from the crowd." "Right now? You'll have to wait a while, man. I can't just leave." Kenny responds impatiently with a scowl, an obvious reaction. "I'm getting shots on the spur of the moment," he explains, trying to sound patient. "And I don't want to miss anything spectacular." "It's a serious matter, Kenny." Bobby's voice conveys desperation. He notices that Bobby sounds and looks troubled. "Okay." He hands the camera to Len to keep taking pictures and moves through the crowd with Bobby. Soon, the cadets are paraded in the center of the field, facing a platform with 11 dignitaries, including the headmaster and 6 JCF officers in uniform. Kenny and Bobby stop by a classroom to talk, away from the crowd of onlookers and the general clamor. "Bobby, what is so urgent that you want to say?" Kenny asks. "It's about pollen." Kenny interrupts him, sneering. Man, you pulled me away from an important assignment to discuss Paul? He hisses through his teeth. Sure. Kenny, I know you don't like Paul or want to talk about him, but this is important. Hear me out. I believe he's in trouble. He's been missing since yesterday and was last seen in Mr. Morrison's office. I heard Mr. Morrison recommended that he see a shrink for acting strangely. Really? Gosh. Do you think Paul has gone mad? I don't know, but we have to help find him. How? Honestly, I have no idea, Bobby says, shrugging. Together, we can come up with something. He spots Sam, his lofty classmate, wandering away from the crowd. Just as Sam is about to pass by him and Kenny, he yells, Hey Sam, just a minute, and waves his hand to get his attention. Over here. Sam quickly approaches them. Because of his height, he walks with a distinctive gait. His body swings like a pendulum, and he leans forward as if he's about to topple over. Bobby tells him, We were just talking about your buddy, Paul. I guess you're already aware of what's going on. He nods. Yes, he's missing. Bobby asks, Do you have any idea what could be worrying him? Not really, he replies. I noticed his behavior changed the day after Greg's party. When he left the party with Winsome, he was boastful as usual and a little high on alcohol and a certain drug. A certain drug? Bobby exclaims. Were you and the other guys at the party smoking weed? No. We, sampled some, cocaine, he admits while fidgeting with the temple of his spectacles. Bobby reacts with incredulity. Cocaine, he voices discreetly. Sam looks down at the ground, shaking his head in regret. Man, what were you guys thinking? Bobby says, giving a judgmental look. That was the dumbest, stupidest thing to have done. It was, the first time for Paul and me, Sam discloses. I didn't want to, but wanting to fit in with the guys, I foolishly gave in. Afterward, I realized I had made a bad decision, so I haven't touched the stuff since, but it has become a habit with Paul. To buy coke, he was pawning and selling anything of value, in addition to stealing from his parents. I recently loaned him $300, believing the money would be used for a personal issue. I later found out the money was spent on coke. Bobby then says, and if he were unable to get cash in a usual way, he'd be inclined to do something out of the ordinary, like mug somebody, probably with a weapon, and it's not hard to imagine a dire outcome. Oh my goodness. Paul may be a great danger to himself and others. That stuff corrupts. I understand it will possess users like a demon, Sam says. It sure will, Bobby agrees. I think he got his supply from a pusher arrested 2 days ago, Sam says. Now, since Paul has an addiction and can't get his usual supply, he's going to freak out, really bad. Bobby says with concern. Think carefully, Sam. If you were out looking for him, where would you go? He grunts, peering upward through squinty eyelids as he jogs his memory. He loves deep-sea spearfishing, he recalls. It's his favorite pastime to get away from it all. I reckon I would go to Port Morgan. Port Morgan? Kenny blurts out. What's wrong? Bobby asks him with a quizzical expression. Yesterday he hesitates. No, it can't be. Bobby and Sam stare at him with apprehension. For crying out loud, Kenny, this is not the time to withhold information. What is it? Bobby says sharply. Well, Kenny pauses for a moment before finally revealing the information. I heard on the news that a teenager had been found dead at Port Morgan. He was disfigured beyond recognition by a shark. Stunned, Bobby and Sam exchange a frozen glance. Sam crouches on his heels, holding his head. Let's not jump to conclusions, he says. After a brief reflection, he snaps his fingers. He has an idea. Let's contact Winsome, he suggests. I have a feeling she might be able to help. I think she and Paul share a secret because she, too, started behaving strangely the day after Greg's party. Kenny asks him, was she also using cocaine? No, he says. She wasn't even aware of what we had done. I believe something happened between her and Paul after leaving the party, and I have a feeling of what it might be. Although the indirect discourse disturbs Kenny inwardly, he also wonders whether Winsome had an affair with Paul and is, in fact, pregnant. Listen, Bobby says, since she and Paul supposedly have a common problem, we should talk with her, as Sam suggested. Sam bobs his head. Yeah, and the sooner, the better. All right, let's do it, Bobby says, and immediately sets off, eager to find out if she can help clarify the strange happenings. Boy, I hope Paul's okay, Sam murmurs as he paces along the pavement with Bobby. Kenny starts moving faster in a different direction, saying, I'll catch up with you guys. I need to fetch my bicycle. Meanwhile, on the field, the headmaster finishes his opening speech, amplified through horn-shaped loudspeakers on top of two 15-foot poles beside the platform. Spectators applaud. The band strikes up, and the crescendo of instruments resounds throughout the school once more. Chapter 15. Kenny, Bobby, and Sam arrive at Winsome's in about 20 minutes. After answering the door, the maid informs her that the boys are on the veranda. Winsome comes to the door, looking frail. The boys freeze, unsure of what to say, but stare at her sorrowfully. Sam's voice breaks the silence softly and gently, saying, Hi, Winsome. She nods, tilts her head toward her shoulder, and looks like she's about to have another nervous breakdown. Did you hear Paul has been missing since yesterday? Sam asks. She nods, tears streaming down her face. This morning around 11, his mother called me, she sobs. She sounded distraught. Everyone she had asked about his whereabouts couldn't give her a clue. She was hoping I saw him today, but I hadn't. Then, she mentioned that she must go to the morgue to look at. Winsome pauses as her fingers brush away more tears spilling from her eyes while sniveling. The body of a boy found on the beach at Port Morgan. The jaw-dropping news stuns the boys. They stay in shocked silence, deeply alarmed at the thought that Paul might have been the person killed by a shark. Oh my goodness. Sam gasps. It can't be. It can't be. Easy, Sam. Let's stay hopeful, Bobby says. We'll keep our fingers crossed that he's out somewhere and is safe. After a brief silence, Bobby asks her, Can I ask you a personal question? It concerns you and Paul. What is it? She asks, sniffling a bit and wiping away some remaining trails of tears. He hesitates. Are you, Finding it awkward to finish his sensitive question, he gestures with his hand, forming an arc over his stomach. Her eyes widen with surprise. Her expression shows disbelief at the inference. Are you trying to ask if I'm pregnant? What gave you that idea? Is there a rumor going around that I'm preg? The look on your faces answers my question. Winsome, I didn't mean to upset or disrespect you, Bobby says softly. You can help us piece together what happened. We believe you and Paul have been going through a problem, something that happened after you and he left Greg's party. Something unsettling, something strange took place that night, and maybe it's why you've been sick and Paul is using cocaine. Is Paul on coke? She utters in surprise. So that was why her voice trails off, leaving the boys eager to find out what happened. Sam wastes no time, prodding, what happened that night? She grasps her head and squeezes her eyes shut. Ow, she wails, seemingly from a headache. This stress is too much, too much. Yet more tears stream down her face. Tell us what happened, Winsome, Bobby urges her gently. I'm sure you'll feel better after sharing your stress. We are your friends. You can confide in us. We would love to see you well again. Let's talk inside, she says softly. People on the road might start staring. She ushers the boys into the living room and lets them sit on a long leather couch while she stands. Pondering in the silent room, she feels her skin crawl under the watchful eyes of the three boys, who seem eager to hear her story. Bobby breaks the silence. Are you all right? She nods, gazing blankly at the pinkish-white terrazzo tiles. Remember, Winsome, the only way to overcome fear is to face it, he offers softly, sounding like a psychologist. I'm feeling so embarrassed, she says softly, twiddling her thumbs and moistening her lips. When we were leaving the party, Paul appeared tipsy. I thought that was all since he smelled of beer. Now I'm realizing he was also under the influence of cocaine. While driving me home, he pulled over, stopped in a dark section of the road, and intended to seduce me. Anticipating a shocking confession, Bobby leans forward in his seat. Sam widens his eyes, making them look larger through the thick lenses of his glasses. Kenny adopts a serious expression. She sits tilted on the arm of the small sofa next to the boys. Suddenly glaring, she says, without my consent, his arm snaked around my waist, and he started pulling me toward him. I fought, I shouted no, and I warned him not to try what he was thinking, as it would be an assault. She pauses, hearing a car stopping at the gates. I think my mom and dad have just arrived. She moves to the window and pulls back the curtain to see whose car she hears. It's my next-door neighbor. She glances at a diamond-shaped clock on the wall, which shows 4:07 p.m. Just as she returns to where the boys are, the maid, carrying a mop and a floor polisher, enters the room. The maid's unintentional presence further interrupts the proceedings. In an ensuing hush, 8 uneasy eyes are fixed on her. Miss Millie, are you ready to clean in here? Winsome asks politely. Yes, she answers. Do you mind tidying another room in the meantime? Winsome implores. By then, my friends from school will be gone. Tidy everywhere already, she says. It suddenly dawns on her that Winsome and her guests need privacy. Alright, can take a hint. We'll iron some clothes in the meantime. She leaves the room after placing the cleaning tools at the draped entranceway. When the maid seems out of hearing range, Sam, eager to hear the rest of the story, asks Winsome what happened afterward. What did Paul do? The boys look steadily at her, eager for the mystery to be revealed at last. Well, she continues. Paul got upset and sped off. I could smell the rubber of burning tires. I told him to stop the car and let me out. But he went faster. I was terrified. She pauses. Puzzled and frozen in silence, the boys sit gaping, briefly glancing at each other before turning their eyes back to her. Is that it? Sam asks, eyes squinting. No, she sighs and nibbles a fingernail. Still squinting, Sam adjusts his heavy spectacles that keep slipping down the bridge of his nose. What occurred then? Paul hit a pedestrian with his car and simply did not stop, she states slowly and despondently. The boys are surprised. They look at each other in silence. A hit-and-run accident, Bobby mutters slowly. Now we know what has been eating you and Paul. I heard about the incident on my CB radio. He turns his head slightly toward Kenny. Remember it, Kenny? Kenny nods and says, yeah. Luckily, the victim survived, Bobby tells her. Why did you keep it a secret? I was afraid, she says. I wanted to tell someone. I was intimidated by Paul's threats. He swore he would spread lies, ugly rumors about me if I told anyone. That monster, Kenny remarks bluntly, but softens his tone, saying, mean, that was unkind. After flashing a quick grin at Kenny's response, Bobby tells her, I'm sure you're feeling relieved. She nods affirmatively. I do. Kenny tells her, I hear you'll be back in school on Monday. Yes. Her reply comes with an adorable smile, strong enough to make him blush a bit. Getting just a touch of her charming smile is all he needs to brighten his day. Bobby gets up from the couch. Anyway, he says to her, it's time for us to go. If we get any news about Paul, we'll let you know. As the 3 boys get to the door, she unexpectedly says, Kenny, can I have a word with you? Yeah, sure, the smitten boy quickly replies. When Bobby's eyes meet his, Bobby gives an approving grin and a subtle wink, as if passing a secret message to spark his charming skill. He and Sam then quietly watch from the door, but can't hear what she's saying to him. Sure, he responds at first. Then, I'll be happy to, and finally, see you then. He seems delightfully thrilled as he joins Bobby and Sam at the door. Are you okay? Bobby asks him teasingly. You man, he says with a glint in his eye. Come on, let's go. Chapter 16. After leaving Winsome's, Sam heads his way, while Kenny and Bobby go in the same direction. Before long, it starts to drizzle. Oh, brother, Kenny blurts, looking up at the gray clouds gathering. Who would have expected rain with the beautiful weather earlier? Yeah, Bobby agrees. Let's take cover in the shop across the road until it blows over. I'll buy you a soft drink. Bobby trots while Kenny hurriedly pushes his bicycle toward the small grocery shop. A short, slightly plump lady is the only customer inside. Her dark brown eyes, slightly baggy, and her cropped brown hair with a few streaks of gray make her look just old enough to be a grandmother. She holds a plastic bag filled with her purchases and waits in the doorway, hoping the rain will stop. Kenny stands beside her, watching the overcast sky and drizzle, while Bobby orders 2 sodas. A young, bearded man, the shopkeeper, works behind a counter that spans the width of the shop. He takes the drinks out of the freezer and removes the stoppers with a bottle opener attached to the front of the freezer. Bobby pays him with loose change and gives Kenny one of the beverages. Kenny takes a mouthful of his orange soda. Refreshing, he exclaims when the icy liquid hits his throat. I needed that. Man, I was so thirsty. Hey, what was Winsome saying to you? Bobby asks, grinning. Kenny chuckles, looking pleased with himself. She wants to borrow some of my record albums. Bobby looks at him with confusion. Man, it's a long story, Kenny says, chuckling again. I see. Bobby replies submissively. He swallows a mouthful of cream soda, then lets out a loud belch. Sorry. He growls an apology. I got the impression she had a platonic relationship with Paul, and I sensed that she likes you. Oh yeah, Kenny's eyes light up. If she does, that would be great. The drizzle quickly turns into heavy rain. Listening through the plasterboard ceiling, the raindrops hitting the zinc roof sound like pebbles falling. I can bet Paul's picture will be in the newspaper tomorrow, either in the missing persons column or in the obituary if the body found on the beach turns out to be him, Bobby says reflectively. Do you think he's, Kenny's voice cracks, finding it unsettling to say the word dead, since the situation involves a known teenager. Bobby gulps more soda. I hope he's still alive. Appearing sympathetic to what has been said, the woman steps up close behind Bobby and taps him on the shoulder. A warm smile highlights